This morning. My name's Ed Daniels, my wife Carole. We are the owners of Shady Grove Botanicals. Shady Grove is a small mountaintop outside of Pickens, West Virginia. A little something about Pickens. Pickens school, 12-year school, had 34 kids this year. 2 of them graduated. So, small area, good people, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And we chose to raise medicinal plants, at-risk plants, with hopes of one day maybe being a seed bank for the state for those plants.
Whoa.
Seed bank.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. So what I mean by seed bank, if you wanted to be an outdoorsman and you wanted to go harvest ginseng, I think the state should charge you a license. Just like if you was to go fishing or whatever, because you're taking probably from the national forest. Let's put something back. So at a $20 fee, you buy this ginseng license, but you would get some ginseng seed, you get some cohosh seed, you get goldenseal seed to take and put back into those areas that you are taking from. More sustainable. So that's a thought for Shady Grove, and our Plant to Seed project, our nonprofit, is to get as many people putting back as there is taking. If you do that to a certain extent for a few years, I think you'd see the population of our at-risk medicinal plants not so at risk anymore. And as a requirement, you would have that. And one of the biggest arguments I get into with the state with that, they said, well, they'll just plant it on their own property. They won't put it back in the national forest. I said, they're still growing. You're missing the point. We want people to grow. And it's to the point that there's several universities that are really jumping on board. So it's a good time to learn more about forest farming. The reason being, in my mind, that the universities are getting on board is, for years, our wild, harvested, at-risk medicinal plants were bartered and sold out of the country to China. China made this medicine for their use and sent some back to us. That commerce trade's probably just about to close if it has. So a lot of the things you see in your wellness stores may not be there anymore. And that's because our trade. As a farmer of ginseng, does it mean I'm not going to be able to sell my ginseng? Probably not dry and go out of the country. No big deal. That's not a big part of our market anyway. We make capsules. I can grind it, put it in a capsule, put it in a jar. Something like this. That's goldenseal, but I got ginseng there too. We put this together. I'm sort of getting off topic, but ginseng that is wild harvested, and depending on the age of that root, will tell a lot of the buyers the strength of the medicine that it can produce. 25 years and up, top shelf. They say it can cure cancer. I don't know, but whenever the Koreans and the Chinese come, they pick certain roots. I see what they want. They want the whole root. It could have a curl on it. When I say a curl is the top part of a root that will actually predict or dictate the age of the plant. And I should have my act together now. But the age of the plant will also dictate the price of the material that it's worth. And it's also the medicine it's worth. So the curl is the growth bud from the new plant. Every year that top goes down, produces the seed goes into the ground, the top's gone, there's a bud scar there. It's a little white bump on the top of it's a little nodule on top of the seed, or the root, and that will open up into a flower in the springtime. It's about a month early this year, but it has opened. The plant dictates its age, and it shows its age with each new bud scar. So the longer the neck from the shoulders up to where the top comes off, say there's 25 scars, it's at least 25 years old. And it's very distinctive because they sort of set off from one another. They go back and forth and as they climb up. If I was to take a pound of those roots that all had 25 years, I might get $700 fresh for 1 pound. That could be 16 roots, 16 1-ounce roots. That's not many to make that money. It's how you grow your ginseng, how you propagate your ginseng. Think about, what's my end product? What am I going to do to make money? We chose to do a lot of different things. We don't put our eggs all in one basket because there's always different variables that can throw you off track. One of the biggest things is germination of the seed. And the wind's been playing heck with me, but the difference of a controlled environment and a tote that just had the top off of it. Planted the same day, the same seed, the same dirt, but I put a lid on that one in the evening. Because in my garage, I have mice. I'm bad, I got mice. And this is what happens when mice, moles, and voles get a hold of it. There's 7 plants out of about 3,000 seeds. So it's a waste of time. So if you go out here in the woods and if you scrape back 1/4 acre of leaves and broadcast out that seed, I would dare say less than 15%. 15% will grow because of the mice and the moles and the voles. Controlled environment with a lid on it, almost 100%. This is new for me. This is what I did this year. I learned. So we took those seed that's starting to sprout. This is 5 days later. You can see the white sprouts coming out. Took these totes, and we put about 1-inch layer of dirt in the bottom, and we just laid those seed on top. Now, before you handle these seed, make sure you get your hands dirty. There's oils and stuff on your skin. If you handle this seed with that little sprout on it, it'll probably damage it and make kill. Unless you get your hands nice and dirty with the dirt that you're dealing with before you touch it. It helps. So anyway, we took those, laid them out, covered them up with dirt. They sprouted again. I went back with a little bit more dirt so they wouldn't get too tall and weak. You know, I wanted a little more dirt under them. They started thickening up. The green come out. Started seeing a little more production. And then, what is it, day 50. 50. Why is 50 it? I don't know. Time, maybe. But at 50, I wanted to separate them because they become root bound. And your roots become intertwined. And if you go to separate them and try to plant them as individuals, you're going to tear some of that fiber, some of that root off. And it may hinder the growth of that plant. So at 50, I was still able to separate them as an individual without tearing up the fibers of the root hairs. And then we went on to plant those in raised beds. And the process there, I put screen across the bottom. So I don't want moles and voles coming up through. During the time that it'll be aerial with the bud above ground, I'll pretty much leave it alone. It's in a fenced in area, but during the winter, I'll put a rack over top of that to keep, again, the mice and the voles from chewing them up. A little bit of more work, but whenever you're looking at a survival rate of almost 100% versus the wild simulated with the pests and such, that we probably had less than 7%. You know, so at a pound of ginseng seed, there's 7,000 estimated seed to a pound. Price difference of per pound could be anywhere from $80 to $180, $250, depending on the quality of your seed. So, you know, if you put that kind of money into your seed and you only got 7 that survive, you're going to be a little bit pissed, you know. And for years, I've dealt with people calling me up saying, basically, I bought seed from you, I had some survive, I'm not really happy with the survival rate. And I said, what'd you do? Well, out there in the field beside my woods, I put a bed and it's a direct sunlight. Yeah, that doesn't work. Well, you didn't tell me that. Yeah, I did. It's 80% shade. This is forest farming, so you're up underneath the canopy of the trees. Good selection for your site would be, my rule of thumb is 8 o'clock in the morning. Go out and you get on your hill where you're thinking about planting and you want that sun to hit you in the face or close to it. That should be your northeast facing, okay? Early morning sun between 8 and 10. That's your area that I would, rule of thumb, start at to plant. May not be your best. If it's got a ditch going through it and it's real wet, maybe put elderberries along there. Elderberries like wet feet. Ginseng don't. So you got to know a little about what you're planting, what you're wanting to do, and are you going to till? If you till the soil, your roots grow faster. They're slick. They have no characteristics. They have no growth or stress lines on it. Stress lines on ginseng are the little lines that run across the root that sort of detect. You probably can't see it, but there's a root here that up next to the top, it has lines running horizontal across the root. That's stress. Okay? In the market of selling roots for medicine, they want to see those stress rings.
They do or don't?
They do. That's a stress plant will produce stronger medicine. If it's a slick plant, like, sorry, if it's just smooth, you don't see any of those lines, and it's in the same picture, there's no medicinal value. It's a ginseng, but it's just like buying ginseng out of GNC or some health food store that was made up or grew in Minnesota. You know, they mass produce it, they grow it to 10 years, 8 to 10 years, they ship it out. 25 years up is your medicine. 15's good, but 25 on is your stronger medicine engines. So if I'm going to market, and I have a whole basket of old roots that I set aside, I'll fetch a lot more money out of that than big roots over here and a lot more poundage because they're looking for that stronger medicine. And we're not dealing with Americans, we're dealing with Orientals, there's Chinese and Koreans that's looking for this. They'll come and look your farm over because they know it's strong medicine, you know, and they've been into it for 5,000 years. We still don't know what it's worth because we're selling it to them. We should never send our medicine out of this country. I'm dealing right now with several universities. Yale, because of our product. We make pure product. I don't blend, I don't add, I make double extractions, and we use wild plants. Yale offered us an opportunity to do online classes for 2 years, 8 classes per year, and I accepted it, and doing pretty good with that. And 2 weeks ago, 2 professors from Yale University showed up at our farm unannounced because they'd used our product. They bought it. They want to know more about it. But that's big pharma. That's who big pharma goes to, is these big universities to develop new medicine. They know that the medicine that they're getting from China is getting shut off or has been. They know that we need people like you growing these products, these plants on your property. They don't want big farms who spray. They want the smaller farmer who's producing quality product. And that could be you guys. And it's just, what do you want to do with it? You know, you're going to make a medicine, you want to sell it outright, I'll buy it. But the first thing you got to do is plant it and get started.
So on the ginseng piece, you talked about the one with the stress and the one with not.
Mm-hmm.
When you start that seeding process, are you starting the ginseng in the tubs and it still has the stress, or are you putting it directly in the ground to get the...
Both.
Because I know the cultivated ginseng don't have the...
No.
The stress
And that's what I was getting at. The ginseng that I've planted in years past, I've raked the leaves back, broadcasted the seed, walked on that ginseng, pressed it into the soil, put the leaves back on it, because the leaves hold moisture. Ginseng seed does not want to dry out, it needs moisture. But what happens is a lot of times when you move those leaves, you disturb those leaves, they dry out. The first windstorm comes through, poof, takes them all away. People forget you got to take brush, grab that maple limb, drag over there and put on top of those leaves that you disturbed. It will help hold it down, but you're also building a little defense. It's Mother Nature's thing. It's Mother Nature, with those limbs laying across the ginseng plant, that deer's not going to browse it off quite as easy. Okay? So, if a plant is smaller than a 2-prong and it gets browsed off, it's done. It killed it. So, it's a big push to get them to a 2-prong, 3-year-old plant before the deer browse it off. So, a little protection thing going on there as far as your investment. They say, rule of thumb, an acre of ground, 10 pound of seed, so we're looking at 70,000 seed, and 8 to 10 years should produce $60,000. I call bullshit. Okay, because I lost all but 7 seed. Okay, and I've done a controlled environment. The tote that had all the plants started, it had a lid on it. This one didn't. This one let the moles and voles in. This one didn't. My investment's better under a protection instead of just letting Mother Nature take care of it. So, you know, how do you want to grow? You know, this is new for me. This isn't something that I read in the textbook. Bob Reifus argued with me on this. Bob's who taught me. He said, Ed, that won't work. He says, you can't handle ginseng that young. He forgot something. You can't. You gotta get your hands dirty. You take your hands right now and you touch that plant, it's not good for it. Even a mature root, it's not good for it. You want to handle it with the care and get your hands dirty, get some mud on there, get some dirt before you ever handle that plant. So, Bob, he taught me a lot of things. I think the things that he learned from me was I was very hard-headed and I didn't listen. But if he told me that this is the way it is, I'd go around it. I'd do something different. Just try to prove him wrong. He was the top guy at Cornell University. And he liked coming down to our farm because it's out in the middle of nowhere. And he enjoyed seeing my theories and the way I was doing things. He'd just laugh. He says, you're smart, but he says, you're slow. He said, you're learning. You know, and I was like, well, you know, I'm trying, but at the same time, just because I tell you this works for me, it's not going to work for you. It's your environment. It's all about how you apply it. You know, I care for these like I would empty. I'm out there twice a day checking them, making sure they're in the dark, making sure there's water and the soil stand, because that's my investment in the future. And it was very important because these were the seeds, the last bunch of seeds I got. So I wanted them all. And I thought about it, and whenever I was able to see the difference of what most people would plant in the wild, and if I controlled it a little bit, the outcome's better. And right now, today, they're still growing, still doing good. So, you know, I'm happy.
Where's the line between cultivating and natural growth?
Time.
Okay.
50 days to that was taken out of that tote.
And then you transplant it into the wild, into your...
I put it in a raised bed for 3 years, 2 years, okay. 2 more years.
And it still gets a stress fracture, or stress mark?
It won't have as many at a young age.
Okay.
But when it's a 3-year-old and I move it into the wild, you won't be able to tell the difference in 2 years.
Okay. That's right.
But the propagation and the survival rate is a lot better. But I had to mess with it.
In 3 years, you're getting how many prongs on that? Is that
2.
a 3 prongs?
2. Ginseng's slow. From seed to a mature plant, planting seeds at least 6 years. Very similar to ramps. So, but the seed ball that comes off of those mature plants that we strive, and I go as far as putting the little, everybody gives me a hard time. They say those
birds off of.
Well, they say I'm putting negligees, you know, see-through stuff on my ginseng. They always give me hell. Birds, snipes, turkeys will come in after those berries. That's my growth rate. If you looked at each one of those seeds, there should be 45, maybe, let's say 35 to 50 seed per mature plant. Now do the math and think of if I have 100% and I get $12 out of each one of those. That's for one plant, and I left the root in the ground. That's what everybody in the market's doing. They're selling the root. I'm going to leave the root in the ground. I want the seed. I want the top. I'm going to make something out of that. Leave the root in the ground. We're going to do it again next year. So my bank account keeps on growing.
It produces every year.
Every year. Now it may lay dormant if something happens, but I don't want that, you know. And if it's not really ate off by a deer or something, it should produce, unless the light changes. Forestry, if they come in and timber next to it, it could cause problems, and it may lay dormant for a few years due to the light.
How many years till a plant goes to seed?
In the wild, about 6. 3 to 4 in cultivated, but they're spraying it. Big difference, you know. There's tricks that you can get your seeds to germinate and produce a top a little bit quicker, and it's a lot of time. My great grandfather sat on the front porch with a rocking chair like a little nail file, and he'd bump it 3 to 4 times to another seed, because you're weakening the case around that seed. And at higher elevations, I think it's because our colder temps force the seeds to be a little thicker. Ours sometimes may take a little longer to germinate. So instead of 18 months, it could be almost 24. So if you're waiting on a seed for 2 years, you're thinking, wow, nothing's going to happen. Then all of a sudden it starts. And then in 3 years, maybe you've got a 2-prong that could produce a couple berries, but usually 6 years. Any other questions yet? Yeah.
What was your survival rate after you noticed with like the moving into the raised beds, and then moving from the raised beds to
moving ginseng is tedious. You got to be very cautious as you move it, because the hair roots is what feeds that plant.
Right.
And if you disturb them too much, it's probably not going to be as productive. It could be still alive and lay dormant. It could be a 4-prong that goes back to a 3 the next time it comes up, but it's going through shock, okay?
Right.
You shock that plant, so it's just like anything else. It could change its characteristics or timing.
What's the difference between shocking and stressing?
Shocking would be something that happened real quick. Stress could happen over years of time. Shock would be right now. You know, somebody come in and cut a tree right in front of that plant. Now it's getting all the light that it doesn't need. It's shocked. Okay. Now stress is the fact that it's growing in a real tight confinement over a period of years, and it's working hard to get bigger, but it's making itself stronger. If you understand that.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, it's like your human body. You know, if you go up against that hill and you climb that hill several times, you're stressing yourself, but you're getting stronger.
Yeah.
If you walk on flat land, you're still walking. But are you getting the stress or the aerobics that you need that hill would help? So stressed seeds.
You have chaga on your table?
Yes. Yep. Chaga, we do use a lot of chaga. Chaga is a fungus, and it's very hard, very ugly, but it does make a pretty good coffee or tea. About 40 seeds. 40. That's one plant. One plant giving you 40 juveniles. Do the math. 6 years, that same seed's going to give you 40 more. So, you know, it compiles real quick.
You'd have to leave some leaves on it though, right? So it's continue to, you couldn't strip all the leaves off.
I do. What happens in
probably
our
after
area?
they set seed, right?
Huh?
Probably after they set seed, it would be all ready.
Once your
to
seed
take
turns
the
red,
flowers.
and in my area, I want that down, because I got nothing against people who hunt.
Yeah.
I have bear hunters who feel like my property is their property. And if their dogs are on the backside of my property, they go across to get it. Fortunately, they opened the gate. At one time, they didn't even do that. They just run through it. But, you know, if they see that, they're going to come back. So I want to take the top off before bear season. And that's, you know, usually the first week in September, second week. but by then my seeds are set.
Yeah,
So-
the leaves turn yellow and stuff.
Yeah, so, you know, what I'm saying is, there's always that variable. You know, what could get my ginseng or my goldenseal? People. There's varmints, there's people, and then there's blight. And blight comes back to a small area overpopulated with plants that the tops touch. And I'm sure you all raised tomato plants, and I've dealt with the blight on a tomato plant, and what do you do to treat it? Well, a lot of people go down to the hardware store, get chemicals, whatever. I don't. I resort to the goldenseal plant. Goldenseal is a very unique plant. You can take that, I usually take about 15 roots, snap them, cut them, get them real small, put them in a bucket with spring water and set it in the sun for a week. Antifungal, antibacterial, you can spray your ginseng, all your plants after it rains. You get a heavy rain, you want to put, but that's a natural spray that's going to fight off the things that monocropping will cause. When I say monocropping, again, you're planting too many of one thing in one area. We like to plant companion plants, and companion plants could be the blackcohosh, the goldenseal, the bluecohosh that's over there. Those are all plants that you're going to find probably in the same cove. That's the greenery and the medicinal plants that really like the companionship, and you'll find them growing together. Maidenhair fern's another one I find in and around that. Solomonsseal, a little bit of bloodroot, not too much bloodroot, but and if you're getting into planting and you want to do some raised beds, I wouldn't do it all on just ginseng. Put a few ginseng in, do some goldenseal, mix it up, and you know, it looks a little bit better too. So, you know, as you're thinking about your farming, pick out a good site. You know, like I said, get out early morning between 8 and 10, face the sun, and that's probably the side you want to plant on. You'll find that's northeast, and the morning sunrise. So, and that'll be the area that gets the least amount of sun per day. Ginseng, a lot of these plants are 80, 20% actual sunlight, 80% shade. So that's the purpose of the forest farming. We're growing under the shade or the canopy of the trees. A lot of these plants, like ginseng, it'll blight out, burn up, it'll turn red. If a tree falls down or someone cuts a tree and there's too much light coming in, it'll put that plant into dormancy probably for a couple of years. Will it come back? It might. I've seen them lay dormant for 7 years. And, you know, I'm in the woods a lot, and I see the same areas. I'm like, that plant wasn't there for the last 3 or 4 years. All of a sudden, you see this big 4-prong. It would have caught your eye before because you've been there. So that plant laying dormant, the root's getting bigger. If it produces the top, a lot of the minerals go, the nutrients go to the building of a bigger top and maybe the fruit, the berries and whatever. But if it lays dormant, it's growing, you know. And sometimes ginseng's like a man. It hits its peak about 28, and then you'll see it start coming back down in size. Now it's crazy because then for years as a broker and of roots, a lot of people that I deal with, they all want these big roots. But then on the downside, they're looking for the long neck. When I say a long neck, that is the curl that's on the top, and that dictates the age, the estimated age of the plant. And thought I had that real quick. Alright, sorry it ain't the greatest. But this is the actual ginseng root, and that'd be the shoulders. Coming up off the shoulder is the curl. Each one of those nick is 1 year. So you see one that's, say, 3 inches, rule of thumb is 1 inch is 10 years. 3-inch neck on it's a 30-year root. That's strong medicine. Also, a lot of the Koreans will use that medicine for cancer. Ginseng is very strong, but the age of it makes it better. So when I told you earlier, I know a lot of exporters of ginseng from the Midwest, 10 years. They can't keep it going any longer than 10 because their soil becomes so contaminated from spraying, they can't export it after 10 years. It's just so full of chemicals. But they're sending it overseas. I guess it's okay. But they're supposed to go through CITES and all this stuff to make sure that it'll pass all the tests, but I don't think they're testing it and checking up on it as close as they should. I apologize.
You can see photos of those Midwest farms, and it's just like big tilled fields under like sugar maple canopy.
I'm glad you brought it up.
It looks really bad.
What's really, there's Paul Su, he's probably the largest exporter Korean, and then there's Dr. Ming, and they're sort of side by side on this. They hold 90% of the export of roots out of the United States. They can only grow on that property for 10 years. They'll lease land. They can't afford to buy it because every 10 years they're jumping to a new piece of land because that land is so contaminated. They can't grow ginseng there again. Ginseng itself will poison the land. It's not just the sprays. You monocrop an area as big as this little lawn right here with ginseng, harvest it in 10 years. You can plant goldenseal back, you can plant this, that, you can't plant ginseng. And it's crazy that the ginseng has that effect to the land because it's supposed to be a medicine, but once you harvest it in a large quantity, you can't go back and plant the same area. So it's a sort of a catch-22. And I've never had that situation, but I've learned from my friends. Is it good to go big? Stay small, stay quality, deal with wild roots. And the money is making them products, of course, but really the money's in the berries. To grow that and to walk around and see all that new life, you're excited because you're going to be able to share it. You all might want some seed. I got it. Right now I don't have any with me, but I can accommodate you with seed. But a small investment. I think just rule of thumb, 1 acre of ground planted with 10 pounds of seed. Now that's broadcasted seed. In other words, if you had an acre here, you raked it all back, and maybe you tilled it and you planted 10 pounds of seed, in about 8 years you should get $60,000. Your investment would be seed and then all those sprays to keep it going because you've monocropped. Where if you've done a small area and placed it out there, you'll grow bigger quality roots with wild characteristics with medicinal value, which will bring you more money. So my friends in the Midwest that are the largest exporters of ginseng, they're sort of jealous. They always want my roots because it makes their pile look better. When they open up that barrel, that drum, it's got all them wild big roots with gnarly characteristics on it. That's mine. What's underneath is what they get. It's all about presentation. So when they hit the market, they open up all these dry drums and they're looking at it, and if they go down that far, they're good. They go below that, get that stuff from the Midwest. They use our sang to sell theirs, and that's because it's known for quality, and it's old stuff. It's a big difference, and you really won't know that unless you get into using it. Personally, I used to get GNC ginseng because I didn't know how to make the stuff, and I could tell that I had a little bit of energy, but whenever I was out ginsenging, my grandfather told me, oh, just chew a little bit of the top or the root. I was like, wow, this shit's real. This isn't like what I'm buying. This stuff talks to you, you want to go do something. And what I realized, I've been told as a young kid that the berries were poisonous. I was out with this guy one time, he said, come on, go ginseng with me. He's an older guy. And I wanted to go because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn more of what he knew. He found a big 3-prong, had a big ball of berries. He said, come down here. He's popping in. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to get me energy. I said, you're going to get energy? I said, I heard that shit will kill you. He goes, no. So I done 3, maybe 4 berries, pop them in, just get the pulp off and the juice, and then put the seeds back in the ground. 15 minutes later, I was like, wow, I'm going to run top of this hill. I'm going to look over the next hill. I'll probably run over there. I had so much energy. But it also brought me to mind, that whole plant's valuable. everything from in the ground, the top of the ground, to the top of that plant has a purpose. It's all usable. So we met up with Larry Harvey. He's a big ginseng farmer over in Friendsville, Maryland. His dad had started the business 30-some years ago. He is big. And he really started off with a wild, like what we did, but he sort of got into the wanting to make more money. He had a wife and a kid, and they all needed a paycheck, so he had to make more money. So he grew and grew and grew, but now he can't go back and plant. He harvests that, and he can't go back and plant. He's leasing land around his land to plant the ginseng. And when he done that, he lost his security, because when he was growing it around his house, he could watch it. Now it's just a quarter mile down the road, you can't watch it. You can put cameras up and you can watch them still, but you can't, it ain't gonna get you nowhere. We was raw. I know what it's like, and it sucks. And it come from the fact that we was in too many publications and too many pictures of nice plants and nice fruit. And there's people out there, they'll seek. It's like a hide and seek for them. They think it's funny to come and steal your. So don't, unless you really want to get advertised and go big, I wouldn't tell people that you're growing these. Let's see, we've covered seed propagation. We do move a lot of rootlets, and rootlets. These are our juveniles that we've raised. We handle them a lot more than my buddies that grow big, vast fields of ginseng, but it goes back to quality. If you want to sell a product that's superior, you want the best materials going into it, and that's what we feel that we do. So that once people try your product and they see the true benefits and knowing that it's a clean product, it's no problem selling it. So we work a lot with some physical therapy folks, therapists, who move our end products, and believe it or not, that's a pretty good niche, because they're wanting to help people better their body without using pharmaceuticals. They use our CBD creams to massage someone's hip that has a problem with the nerve, and before they're done, they're like, wow, that salve's working. What he said, I got it in there, you can buy it. So, you know, as an end product, if you're going to get into this, you think about, what am I going to make money from? Am I going to sell plants? You can sell rootlets. Am I going to sell seed? You can sell seed. Can I sell the top? You can dry it and make teas. The root, if you leave in the ground, is there to do it again next year. Or you can sell that. So there's a lot of options to make a little bit of money. I think it's best to keep that root in the ground and go with the end product. And that can be tinctures. We do a lot of ginseng tinctures. We was highlighted last summer with the Smithsonian Institute. We got to go down to DC, spend a week. Our farm was highlighted through there for 6 months. They pulled it down, I think, in December. Because we're small, we're sustainable, and we're looking for ways to make things less volatile. We want to move small products with big punches. And that's a good end product, you know, and it's got attention. We're currently working with Yale University. I do online classes with some Yale students for the next 2 years, and then we was recently visited by 2 professors from Yale University who's very interested in our mushroom tinctures. And I was a little caught off guard because they came to our farm unannounced. And he said, I bought your tincture at Canaan. He said, where did you get this? He said, we made it. He said, you sure? I said, yeah. He said, it's not white label. I said, no. He said, that's some of the best I've ever tried. I said, what's different? He goes, I don't know. He said, that's why I'm here. He said, where did you get this? And I said, you know, we harvest so much wild and we put into it. But he was so surprised that we were so into making a product that pure. When we do our tinctures, we look for organic alcohol. Simple things. What was the sugars that was used in that alcohol? It all plays a part in the end product. It costs a little bit more, but if you're shopping for a good product and you try ours, then you'll see why it's going this way. Our linesman, big push this year because a lot of people had brain fog from COVID. It will sharpen your memory. It will clear that brain fog within 2 days. It just gets you so focused. But we use wild harvested mushrooms. I'm not buying mushrooms from someone who raised it in a bag or off a log. Log mushrooms aren't quite as bad, don't get me wrong. Ours are wild harvested when we make our stuff. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you talk about stratification for ginseng seed? Also
Yeah.
goldenseal, I'd be curious about.
Goldenseal, we'll start with it. Goldenseal is a tough one.
You want really fresh seed? Is that?
Well, here's the deal. With goldenseal, I've learned is very similar to the garden seeds. You got ferment. You know, and a lot of people think, well, I just took the seed and I've done this and it should grow. And 2 years later, it still didn't grow. The fermentation changes that. I mean, it increases the survival rate. They'll still survive in the wild without being fermented, but I don't think the survival rate is as good. Ginseng, the stratification, you know, we'll harvest our seeds in September. Like I said, I like to get it out before the bear hunters come through. And we'll pop those, get our juice, our pulp off of the seed, put it in wet sand, and I got a screen bag, an old screen door, folded it over, knitted up the sides, sewed up the sides, fill the top, roll it down, and then close it, put it under the ground about 12 inches and leave it there for about a year, 18 months. And I messed up this year though. I'd done one for 12, another one for 18 months. The 12 isn't germinating yet. It's not sprouting, so I was a little disappointed. I made a mistake. But I'm learning. You know, it's my own fault. You know, someone said it wouldn't work that way, but I tried. Another thing you can do is, you know, and I didn't get to it, the ones that I've only went for 12 months, I wanted to put them in a rock tumbler. A guy told me this. He said, you just want to, in the old days, they would sit with a file and file the edge of their ginseng seeds just a little bit so that seed would open up an earlier rise. And instead of being an 18-month ordeal, you're looking for a 12-month. And some people try to do different things to increase their propagation or their time. Mine, however, on that theory didn't work out too well. But they'll be okay next spring, and we'll have more seed then. But someone else had a question. Lee? Yeah. Anybody else got a question? Ginseng?
When you're tincturing the ginseng, are you using both leaf and the root, or just the root?
We do different. Now we have one that my great-granddad had done. He mixed ginseng leaf with a little piece of the root and tea berry leaf for the flavor. Okay, and that was his little elixir that he took every day. He lived to be 99, and that's sort of why I got into ginseng, because I've seen his benefits. You know, the only reason he died is because he quit eating. He didn't want to be a burden on everybody. He probably could have still lived for another 5 or 10 years, you know. But it's ginseng. He had that energy. He went out every day. He worked hard. And it made him healthy. So.
Yeah, I've lost 200 plants myself. Somebody poached me.
Yeah. What's really rough, when they poach them, you got them on camera, they take it to the meth head dealer up the road who brings them down to you dry and says, you want to buy your roots back?
Oh my.
I could have killed it. I could have killed it. But, at the same time, what do? You can press charges, but they ain't got nothing. You're going to spend money in court system to add to the cost of what you just lost. I don't know. But anyway, it does happen. Sorry you had to experience that too. But are you monocropping? You make it easy for them?
Well, me and Dad used to hunt when I was 8
Yeah.
till I was, I don't know how old I quit hunting because nobody buys it, and then it's a long way to sell it to somebody.
Yeah.
So I just quit digging it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we deemed it as a small one, we'd bring it home, root and all, and we'd transplant it.
Well, let me hype you all up a little bit. Working with the universities, I'm seeing a big push. What's going on in our medicine industry or our world? We were harvesting these wild roots, exporting them to China. they were turning it into medicine, sending it back. Okay? That's not going to happen anymore. That's shut off. So you got all these universities that's wanting folks like you to talk to people like me and get in board and start growing, because they got to find people to supply them with this medicine. And it's straight up. I mean, it's coming. And they're coming to me because this is what we're doing. It's not just me. Other people in this industry, they're seeking them out. They're wanting their roots. So it's a good time to get in.
Yeah, we
It
got
is.
a lot of people hunting out of season up on this.
Oh, I've already had people trying to sell me ginseng.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as it comes out of the ground. You want to buy it? No. I don't want to go to jail. Tony Kaufman's looking at 5 years. $500,000, 5 years. He broke the Lacey Act. Isn't that what it is? Lacey Act. He bought ginseng out of state, out of season for a second time. Each act on the Lacey Act, it's punishable by 1 year in prison and $100,000 fine. So, you know, but the government really likes to know a lot about ginseng. The state does, but the government wants to know too. They want you to tell them that you're going to grow it. I wouldn't do that. I told them, because I was also warned that we're coming to a time that what we're faced with right now is there's going to be a shortage. And what happens is volume sales is going to drop, quality sales is going to go up on this. Okay, so back to what I was telling you about the quality of that root. My friends in the Midwest who were shipping out 90% of the ginseng that's exported to the United States, they're going to lose. Because they're not going to be able to export. And no one wants their ginseng because it's sprayed. Okay? The people that's raising the wild ginseng, quality ginseng, price goes up. And it's a great time. It is. Whether you get it from me or whoever, if you got land, you may want to call Robin Black at the state, let her know you're thinking about ginseng, and see where it takes you. First thing they'll do is ask you to do a determination. And what that is, he'll send the state forester out, and he'll say, where do you want to plant this at? He'll take a GPS and he'll mark the coordinates of that plot that's now sent to a satellite. A satellite you have to have 5 satellites that can see your crop. I had 9. So why do they got to have all that? Why does the government want to watch my crops? There's a big cornfield down the valley, one of the biggest ones I ever saw. They ain't watching that. He's probably making a lot more money off that corn than I am off my ginseng. They're not worried about that. Ginseng they watch hard. But it keeps some people like me honest. But you know, you get too big, and sometimes greed sets in, and you get caught selling across state line. I'm not going to get jail. She works at federal court. I don't want to go in front of her. She's mean. But you know, there's money to be made. I guess that's what I want to get through to you all. It's a good time to get in, find your market, and find your approach. You want to do tilled soil and quick raised beds and volumes of ginseng, or do you want to do the 50 roots a year quality stuff and make good quality medicine? There's a lot of ways to approach it, but it goes back to, we had businesses all of our life. First one, we had 28 employees at Snowshoe. It was all high school kids. I don't want that. Here's my best employee. She complains, but I can deal with it. You know, and it's what can you handle yourself. You know, you want to grow and you think I can get this big, you got to have a lot more help. Today you don't find that help, so you got to find that fine line of what can you do, or you and your spouse do, to make that living wage. And it's there. But the end products, keep that in mind. That's what you want to do. Figure out a salve or a tincture, and then just start marketing it. Get 1 or 2 items and just push it, and let people see that you're producing it. Then they want more. What else you got? You know, and if you provide them with that, they tell people. We've got people from New England to Florida to California buy our products. So online business is good. And we make small products that's easy to ship. Any other questions? Yes.
Did you get all your recipes from your ancestors?
A lot of them. See, my great grandfather, one I told you, who was 99, he, pretty unique individual. He worked at logging camps. He set up the railroad into the holler, and he wasn't a doctor, but he knew all these plants. And someone in his family, or our family, had taught him, you got a bad cut, you need to put yarrow on it, stop that bleeding. Them men in that camp, they was like, oh wow, thank you. I needed that, because they're out in the middle of nowhere in the late 1800s with a cut that probably should have had 20, 30 stitches, and this guy's put a little polish of yarrow on there and it's stopping the bleeding. So, there's simple things like that. And no, he didn't write it down. It's time spent with them. And that's what you get in that way. Yes?
What are some of the major seed experiments or other experiments you'd like to see done?
Crossing of genetics. When I was in D.C., there was a lady. She says she can clone. She was up here a couple years ago. I'd like to see what she calls cloning. My great-grandfather taught me what I assume she's talking about is cloning, and that was cutting that. Remember the neck that I talked about had the little scars? And above the shoulder, you got the bulb of the root, you got the shoulder, and then you got the neck, okay? You cut that neck off at an angle. That top part you put back in the ground. Next year it'll produce another top producing seed, and that root will continue to grow. Sightings is a deal that says each root that I buy, I sell, has to have that neck on it, it has to be a 5-year-old. So by that rule, we're hurting our own industry. Where my great-grandfather said you cut that off, you put that back in the ground, next year you come back, there's more sightings. This rule says I take that root, nothing's coming back other than seedlings. So yeah. Any other questions? You're all too easy. Come on.
You're talking about the companion plants,
Yes.
like goldenseal.
Mhm.
Do you do you use the goldenseal, like make your own fungicide and spray to them when you're doing monoculture, or
Both.
do you plant like with
Your blights, again, happens from wet leaves touching one another. So if you monocrop, you've got it densely populated of the same thing. If you're planting one here, one here, one here, you won't have to. Very seldom will you have any problems other than deer.
if you plant them with like goldenseal?
I do.
Like, do you have the black issue?
No, not as much. Actually, a lot of my seedlings that we start are nurseries in raised beds. My goldenseal will be this tall, and underneath that would be my seedlings growing. Because the deer don't like to browse off the goldenseal quite as much. So up underneath that, and the canopy of that plant top, I've got shade for that little rootlet to grow. So, and it's just thinking about what you're going to do. Yeah.
So how long will you raise your rootlets? I guess you probably sell like 1 and 2 year old.
3 is what I shoot for.
Oh,
Three.
Three, and then you plant them out when they're 3 years old. Do you like to put them in your
Now,
forest, or will you
What
plant them
happens
out
is, whenever I'm raising here,
Uh-huh.
this is a new thing for us this year. That's why we're calling it the seed experiment. But those are special seeds. So we've done the seed experiment, and I say 50 days, basically to here. You want to move them out of plastic quick. I just 50 days as I watched it every day. I took pictures every day, and I was like, wow. I'd look under the dirt, and I'd see the hair roots on it and the fiber. And once it starts getting intertwined, it's so easy to pull them apart and tear them. If you catch them at 50, I found that they wasn't locked in so much, and I was able to get them out and separate them. Therefore, we was able to get them out into the ground and propagate them, and got a good survival.
And you said that you planted them into raised beds.
Yes.
So you wouldn't recommend for like if you're planting in a
That's for
forest
the 3
system,
years.
you plant
Okay, I
them-
took that seed, 50 days, put it in the raised bed for 3
so
years.
raise it for 3 years.
3 years, I
Plant the
take it out
rootlets.
and I sell that, or I transplant it into the wild.
And you plant them in the fall. the rootlets when they're dormant, or
Yes,
do them anything?
yes, yeah. You'll see the little bud scar that'll come up on it. That'll be the development of the top for the following year.
So whether you're selling them or planting them in the wild, you try to get them to 3 years before you transplant them into their.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you also do some broadcast sowing, or you let.
I don't know that I'm gonna do any more broadcasts.
Yeah, because it's just so unreliable.
You know, and that's just me, because the amount of chipmunks and moles and voles in my area. You all may not have it,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, they are detrimental to your propagation rate. You know, if I can look at that and I see all the green and almost 100% of the seeds propagated, that's a good chance I'm going to grow a good crop.
And your cell seed too, right?
Yes.
So you want that seed to be able to sell.
I want my
you know,
customers to experience
that seed.
good survival rate, you know, and I try to talk to them. I can't go to everybody's farms, but, you know, I've had people complain this didn't work, and I was like, what'd you do? And once they tell me, I'm like, how'd you do that? You told me to. I was like, no, I didn't. You know, when you plant it in a sunny area because it's easy for you to see and go to, it ain't gonna live. It ain't. You know, if you take it over here where it's harder to get to and it's darker and it's got shade and you got trees. Let's talk about that. That's something I didn't cover. Ginseng likes calcium. Sugar maples. The leaves will break down and provide those plants with that nutrient. That's very important. Your poplar does pretty good. Black walnut. They say beech, but usually under the beech trees in my area, it's so rocky it doesn't do so well. But I have friends that say in their areas that it does grow well in the beech.
I've seen ginseng growing on like west-ish facing
Yep.
slopes, like under oak and beech. Like it will tolerate that.
Let's go back. You hit something right there. I missed it. Oak. Do not plant in oak. Oak leaves are so fibrous and so tough. And if they're laying flat on your floor, your forest floor, that seedling will not penetrate that oak leaf. It's that tough. Maple leaves aren't as thick. They'll come up through that. They break down a little faster than the oak leaves. So, rule of thumb, everybody's told me don't plant under oak. I've got some under oak. They're not doing as well.
Yeah.
I was told not to plant under white pine.
Spot.
I've got nice ones under white pine.
Yeah.
You know what my theory is on that? What grows under white pine? Ain't much. A bunch of pine needles. So you got a green plant there, that deer's going, hey, there's a buffet, you know, I'm gonna over and eat that green top. To the whoever done it before, they probably said it won't grow there. I know it'll grow there. It's you know, I like to take that challenge. Someone said, oh, it won't do this. Well, let me try it. It's like the seed. Someone said it won't work. I tried it. They was right. I ain't afraid to admit it. I done something wrong. But growing's always fun because there's different ways to approach it. Do you have a question?
So where are your raised beds? Are they in the forest, or you
Yeah.
have them like in your yard somewhere?
I don't do it in my yard. Everything's under the canopy of the forest. And actually, Will Lewis here hooked us up with a very nice grant this past year. We got $3,000, and we put almost 2,000 into 900 feet of fence, and we bought a bunch of old mulch to plant. So it's not something that I'd like to take my money out of my pocket to buy. Those were the two items we sat and we talked. I was like, what would you do with that money? I don't like to buy dirt, or I don't like to buy fence, you know. So once we put the fence up, it's like, wow, look at all these plants where they come from. We've been planting there for like 10 years, and now it's just like green everywhere. It's like, it wasn't that way last year, but it's the deer browse. So you eliminate that deer browse, it's like, wow, you know, it's something to see now. So we're all excited every day or two. I'm trying to get some new photos of the farm and watch it green up, and it's pretty amazing. And I can see what's coming at us as far as, back to what I'm saying about the universities. It's not just Yale. There's a lot of them that's looking to get into growing. And if they're getting into it, there's a reason behind it. But they're being driven by Big Pharma. Big Pharma is trying to set the pace. So if you're looking, you got a little bit of money, you got the land, I would invest. I would. It don't have to take a lot. It's your time. Once you plan it, it's pretty much good to go for a while.
Does it have any preference as far as like sloping and like the grade of a slope?
Yeah. Ginseng wants a sloped area. It doesn't like wet feet. You don't want to plant it in a marshy area. Side of a bank where it's well drained is good. So, and if you dig in the soil and it's light brown and clay, you probably don't want to do that either. But you'll find some good dark soil, and you'll see the difference, and those plants will take off. Yes, sir.
Well, that's what we call pointers. If we're looking for sign or certain
Yeah.
plants you see growing in the soil, you know
Yeah.
it's good soil.
Exactly. Maidenhair fern. That's always been a good one for us, and I like them just to plant anyway. I mean, they're pretty cool. Any other questions?
So the seeds, how long do they take? Like about 18 months to germinate in the field?
No.
How long do they take?
It depends. That's a good question. Rule of thumb, they say 18 months. From the time it's a red berry until it's going to sprout and come out, 18 months. I've seen them take as long as 2 years solid. But I don't know if it's because they were grown at a higher elevation and that the casing on that seed's thicker. Because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I know people in the old days would sit with on a rocking chair, on their porch, they would sit and file each seed so it would open up quicker. They wouldn't go all the way through it, but they'd sit there and file it just a couple times. They knew how many swipes on that they'd hit, and then they'd put it down and get another one. But it's to allow that seed to open up quicker. They was that into it. They had time, I guess. But yeah, you know, whenever you're looking at seeds, think about 18 months to 2 years. Yeah.
So you have tried stratification in the plastic, right?
Not in plastic. You know, if I'm stratifying my seeds, I'm going to take seeds and put them in wet sand and a screen, like a screen, roll it, fold it so nothing can get into it, and bury it a foot down.
How long does it take?
18 months.
18 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you'll just dig them up when the soil thaws enough to dig it up.
Yes. Actually, mine will be
March,
more towards the fall. I pull mine out in the fall.
You put them in the spring and pull
Yes.
them out in fall.
Yeah.
So they start, but then are they germinating in the fall already, or then you put them in the fridge over winter?
I'll put, you know, when I say put them in the fridge, in the fall, when I pull them out to sell, what I don't sell, I put in my fridge.
Okay.
Because I may have a workshop today, and I'll have several ounces of seed, but they're starting to sprout.
I see.
And that sort of
Okay,
is a
so-
good and bad thing, because when they start to sprout, you handle them, it's not good.
Uh,
If you move ginseng, once it's sprouted, I recommend you to get your hands dirty. Get your hands really dirty or wear gloves. Even with rubber gloves, I still get them gloves dirty. They don't want the oil touching, okay? So it's important to, simple little things like that can make a big difference in your survival rate of your seed.
So they start to emerge when the canopy closes, or like
What's
the,
that?
the emergence of the seeds or the ginseng
As the canopy,
closes,
as in closes.
Gets leaves.
Oh, yes, yeah, as the canopy opens, yeah. I'd say opens would be with the leaves coming out. That's where I was getting at. I'm sorry, when you say closes, I was like, wait a minute.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're on the same page, it's just a different chapter. It's, you know, and your seeds, you can trick seeds. It goes back to how many, somewhere in a book, did we bring any of those books? I'm thinking Scott Pearson's had put in this book the number of days that seed needs to freeze, the number of days it needs to germinate. So, you know, and again, it goes back to, he's in North Carolina. Elevation could be 1,800 feet. The seeds that grow down there may not have a very thick seed casing. Okay, maybe their winters don't get as cold as mine. But ours seems to take longer because of our colder winters. I'm thinking this. I may be wrong, but that's my theory. There's something in elevation. And if you was to buy seed from your area, if you're in Virginia, Maryland, or wherever, you should probably look to see what seed's in that state close to you. I'm just being honest. I'd love to sell y'all seed, but they always say what comes out of your area is probably the best. What grows in your state.
I definitely won't buy from you then. We're all neighbors.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Talking about splitting goldenseal.
Yeah, we could. I don't have any out, but propagation of goldenseal. I mean, it's real simple. The root is a very fibrous root. It's resilient. The little root hairs off of it, you can pull one off, put it here, pull one off, put it here. They all grow. Goldenseal is good to transplant because the more you move it, I'll start it off in a monocrop. Again, raised beds, fill it full, and then I select the big ones out as I harvest my seed. I'll snap those big ones, let them air dry for 8 hours. Because if you snap that root and you don't let it air dry, you got a sappy spot. You put that in the ground, it could cause it to rot. Okay? We don't want you to have that. So, snap your root, cut it in half, air dry it, bury it, spread it out. Where you dug from, there's fibers left there, so there will be a plant that comes back, maybe 2 or 3. And the ones you took out that you divided will grow and start more too. So it's a very resilient plant. I would highly recommend you get a couple pounds of goldenseal and plant in your arsenal. If you've ever used it, or if you have, it's great during COVID. I had folks coming to us, what do you have to help me with my head and chest? I'm just so tight. And I was like, you want to get it out, you want to expel it. I said, you can use Moyen and goldenseal. They didn't know what it was. A lot of them, I said, if you take the goldenseal, drink a gallon of water, because it'll dry it up your head and your chest. Well, they didn't hear the gallon part of it. They didn't listen. They took a cup. They thought they was drinking a lot of extra water. Well, it dried it up in your head and your chest. You've got to have the fluids in your body for these medicines to work. If you are told to drink a gallon of water and you only drink a cup, and you're saying, man, my head's tight, I can't get this out, it's not working. Did you drink the water? No. Okay, it dried up in your body. And it does that. Goldenseal's strong. It has berberine. Anybody know anything about berberine?
Yeah.
Strong. That's
What is that?
berberine. What would be the best way to describe it? It would lower your blood sugar. It
It's
will.
really yellow.
Yeah.
Usually like the berberine stuff.
I mean,
Feels
it
really
has a
yellow
nasty
and
taste, but cure a lot of different things. And then again, it's the same plant that I told you. I snap, cut up, and put in a bucket. Spring water, let the sun hit it. It'll turn a golden color, looks like pea, and spray your plant, antifungal, antibacterial. So it's a strong plant. It's a good plant to have around. Even if you've got a garden, tomato plants, you can spray it with the same stuff, and it'll stop the blight on your tomato plants. So it's good to have.
Biofungicide.
Huh?
Biofungicide.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I used to use the neem leaf.
Neem?
Yeah, I used to use that neem leaf.
You know, I'm hearing some mixed reviews on neem these days. We grew hemp, and we was looking at something to combat some problems that we were having, and we was trying to find something organic to treat our plants with, and you know, everything was pointing towards neem except for a couple of precursors, and I said, don't use it. And it could be a carcinogen. Just like sassafras root. You ever use it? Know anything about it? My grandparents used it for years. That was a summer or a spring tonic. And now it's just, be careful with it. You know, don't breathe too much of it. Don't drink too much of it. It's a carcinogen. It's on the list. But back in the old days, all the people used it. So.
Yeah, the neem is a strong chemical compound, so it's like the plant itself is not a carcinogen, but the extract is, and it's pervasive, so it like stays on the plant for a really long time. I know you could spray it on a really young plant, and it will grow out of that. It's photosynthetic, and it'll grow out of that, but like you don't want to spray it anywhere near flower time for your hemp.
Right. And that's what we was at.
Yeah.